when tragedy becomes political theater. News of death is always difficult to process, and when it comes in the form of shocking or violent events, the public reaction can be a mix of grief, confusion, and outrage. Recently, reports emerged that filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, were found dead in their home, allegedly at the hands of their own son. These reports, coming from reputable sources, highlight a tragic situation that no family should endure, a sudden and incomprehensible loss compounded by circumstances that are as horrifying as they are sorrowful. Amid the sadness, political discourse has, predictably, sought to capitalize on the moment. Some social media posts, including those circulating on platforms such as Truth Social, used the news of the Reiners' deaths to advance partisan points. While the facts surrounding the deaths remain under investigation, the leap from tragedy to political commentary, particularly the framing of a family murder as a punchline or moral judgment, is both insensitive and politically short-sighted. The events themselves deserve sober attention. Rob Reiner, known for his work as a director, actor, and activist, lived a life in the public eye. His wife Michelle, though less publicly visible, shared in that life, supporting and standing beside him. To suggest, even obliquely, that either had been driven to death as a consequence of politics or personal beliefs is misleading and cruel. The tragedy is human, not partisan. Any attempt to recast it as otherwise diminishes the gravity of the events and dishonors those involved. The danger of premature or politicized commentary. In moments of shock, social media users and public figures alike face the temptation to respond immediately. In many cases, those responses are framed to serve a political or rhetorical purpose rather than to reflect the seriousness of the situation. Posts that imply political causation or assign blame to ideological differences, rather than to the ongoing investigation, are particularly problematic. One term that has circulated widely in political commentary is Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes used to dismiss criticism of former President Donald Trump. It was mentioned once in some posts related to the Reiner story. While the term may appear in political debates, it is not a medical diagnosis and has no relevance to the personal tragedy unfolding in the Reiner household. Invoking it in the context of real-world violence not only distracts from the facts but risks trivializing both grief and political discourse. Tragedy involving public figures requires careful navigation. Political critique has a legitimate role in society, but when it intersects with the suffering of real families, a line exists. Speculation, humor, and moral judgment should not overshadow human empathy. In the case of the Reiners, the alleged actions of their son are deeply troubling. The public is naturally curious about motives and circumstances, and reporting will inevitably follow. But rushing to politicalize the situation reduces it to a rhetorical tool. It substitutes debate for grief and transforms a family tragedy into a spectacle. In doing so, political commentators undermine their credibility and demonstrate a lack of sensitivity. Even soft, seemingly joking commentary can have consequences. It shapes the way audiences interpret events, influences public perception, and potentially harms those who are already grieving. Public figures who misuse such moments, whether intentionally or through careless phrasing, contribute to a culture in which empathy is secondary to provocation. It is important to differentiate between criticism of public figures and commentary on private tragedies. Rob Reiner, for example, has long been a vocal participant in political debates. His views, like those of any public figure, can be analyzed, challenged, or critiqued. But the circumstances of his death and that of his wife are a private tragedy first and foremost. Reducing the alleged murders to political symbolism fails on multiple levels. It risks spreading misinformation, it amplifies pain for the family, and it diminishes the ethical standards of public discourse. Political strategy is not served by exploiting the deaths of others. Empathy and restraint, however uncomfortable in partisan contexts, are a reflection of civic maturity. Social media thrives on immediacy, and partisans on all sides often respond in real time. In such an environment, the line between verified information and speculation is easily crossed. Premature claims about motive, ideology, or causation may circulate widely before facts are established. The Reiner's alleged deaths are still under investigation. Reporting should focus on verified developments, the discovery of the bodies, law enforcement statements, and ongoing inquiries. Commentary that attributes intent or political causality risks misleading the public and exacerbating a highly sensitive situation. Even subtle framing choices, language implying justice served or karma because of political beliefs, can be harmful. Such framing transforms a tragic event into a moral lesson for an audience rather than a call for understanding or reflection. This is a political misstep. It is both insensitive and strategically counterproductive. The human dimension. At the heart of any tragedy are the people involved. In this case, the alleged perpetrator is the Reiner's own son, whose motivations and circumstances remain part of the investigation. Focusing only on political angles ignores the complexity and humanity of those involved. Family dynamics, mental health issues, and personal history are all factors that may contribute to such an act. Oversimplifying the event to a partisan talking point is irresponsible. The Reiners, as a family, are victims of a deeply personal tragedy. Public commentary that sidelines their humanity in favor of political messaging risks trivializing their suffering and that of those who knew and loved them. Civility in political discourse requires acknowledging that some realities, such as violent family tragedies, demand restraint, even from the most ardent partisans. Soft critique of politically motivated social posts. The Truth Social post, for example, sought to connect the Reiner's deaths with political ideas, suggesting consequences tied to partisan disagreement. This approach is politically shallow. It neither explains events nor provides meaningful insight into policy or ideology. Instead, it leverages grief and shock for rhetorical effect. To be clear, political commentary has value, but its value lies in clarity, insight, and evidence-based reasoning. Using a family tragedy as a prop for political points does not meet that standard. Such posts may generate, while some may see opportunities for partisan messaging in shocking news events, a measured approach, one that acknowledges facts, avoids speculation, and respects human suffering, is more ethically sound and, ultimately, more credible. Using tragedy as rhetorical ammunition is both unkind and strategically shallow. The deaths of Rob and Michelle Reiner, if confirmed as alleged, are profoundly sad events. They are also a reminder that political speech carries weight and consequence. Thoughtless commentary can undermine both moral norms and political effectiveness. Words matter, especially in moments when the stakes are human life and grief. In the end, the lesson is simple: accuracy, empathy, and ethical restraint are not signs of weakness. They are the foundations of responsible political discourse. They ensure that when tragedy occurs, it is met with respect rather than spectacle, and that public discussion contributes to understanding rather than division.